Welcome to Be a Voice. I'm Britt Carpenter, and welcome to Usala Media. I am sitting here today with a old friend of mine that I have not seen for quite some time, and someone that I have watched her journey grow and grow, and actually somebody who actually really makes me laugh, and you're going to find out why during this show. I'm sitting here today with Jamie Pappas.
Wow.
Get it right.
Wow, so much pressure on me. Old friend, and I have to make you laugh.
I know. I love it. I just sort of pulled that shit out of the air for you.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you are here. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been quite some time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I feel like Instagram meetups are not even a thing anymore because everyone is a pedophile murderer.
You're right.
All right, see ya.
But it's interesting how Instagram and social media itself has evolved, like everything in technology.
Right.
Before, Instagram was supposed to be fun. It was about developing community. It was about people coming together.
Also posting photos. Remember that?
It was just
Remember photography?
photos.
Remember when we brought cameras and went places to
They were
take
called
photos?
photo walks.
Right.
They were meetups to take pictures.
So nice.
Exactly. And that's not like that anymore.
Definitely not.
Why? Why do you think that happened?
I think we were using it for a singular purpose. Everyone uses things differently.
Okay.
What do you think? Because they started using Instagram started was those 12 awful filters. So anybody that took any photo would put a filter on it and throw it up there. I think we genuinely were using it to share photography.
I thought it was really cool with that like torn border and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yes. Like what was the name of the one? They're like random city names, but they're just like brown.
Yeah. Just a different color.
Yeah. I think people started using Instagram as just a quick pace Facebook. So Facebook just became too long format for people because people need that quick hit. So they switched to just quick post.
And I also think Instagram was a way for people to come together and connect that didn't know each other.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook, you knew each other.
Right.
Sort of, unless like you.
I have plenty of friends from Twitter and Instagram, like my internet friends. They don't like when I call them my internet friends, but that's what they are.
Well, I mean, that's what we are.
Yeah,
I mean, we met
you're
through
an
the
internet
internet.
friend.
Instagram.
For sure.
I mean, I wouldn't
Match.com.
Swipe.
Match, you definitely don't swipe. I assume there's a form you have to fill out. Have you ever been on Match.com?
No, obviously, if I think I'm swiping, I have no freaking idea.
I would assume it's like a full form. But yeah, I have friends. Twitter, I have met a lot of friends like through sports. Mm-hmm. And Instagram was through photography and those photo walks.
Same. It's interesting. Not sports, of course, though. But like because of the advocacy work I do and stuff like that. And there's people that I don't even know who they are, but they think they're my friends.
Right. And hashtags really made it easier. That's the one linking factor Twitter and Instagram had was if you hashtag something, you could find other people with similar.
They were common interests.
Right.
Hashtags don't mean shit anymore, do they?
Hashtag nope. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Every once in a while I use them just to see what happens and nothing. Yeah. Nothing changes. Those algorithms just go flatline the whole time.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to attribute it to a hashtag, but even on TikTok, I don't know what I'm doing.
Are you on TikTok?
Yes. As a requirement, I feel like.
For what you do.
Yeah, and I also, sometimes I just don't want to type, so I'll just say something into the phone and then post it. But yesterday I duetted a video with something the Sixers posted, and it was rather negative on my part, and it got, no joke, the number 4 views, not an exaggeration. And I was like, did the Sixers block me? Like, I think they're blocking my videos.
That's crazy.
Which I don't blame them.
Are you negatively going after them?
No, I just, it was Nick Nurse saying like, ready, like today's the day we start. And it was just me putting like a blanket over my head because I didn't want to hear it.
And it's interesting because you are a sports fan. Mm-hmm. You are a sports person. How did you become, and it's stereotypical.
Yeah. As a woman, how did you?
Yeah. A girl in sports.
I always tell people that I was just born within an hour of Philadelphia. Like there was no.
It was a requirement.
Right. And I grew up with just my mom. So people are always like, oh, is your dad this, that, that? I was like, first off, he's dead. Back up. And no, like, I know. No, I hope you laugh at that. Would be way more awkward if you started crying or something.
I know.
Yeah. We always just watched. I mean, we played sports. We watched sports. Why not? Like Sundays were just big. Like,
You and your mom?
Yeah. And my older sister, my aunt. Yeah. Big Eagles fans always.
So when did your dad pass?
My mom didn't know she was pregnant with me yet. Surprise. Here I am. Yeah, my mom had my older sister, and they like had a conversation about having another kid. My dad had a heart attack in his sleep one night, and my mom found out she was pregnant post-funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, big bummer.
What a story for memoirs.
Yeah.
You know, or just tell everybody now. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I have jokes about it and things. I have to be delicate with it because for me it is my life. So I always say I was born into grief, and a lot of people don't experience death till later on, where they're processing maybe a grandparent or a pet.
It either.
Yeah. So I can be a little bit more crass with the way I speak on it because I always say that I was born into a life of people looking at me like this. Like, oh, yeah. Well, I don't know any different. It's my life, my story. So I look at people like that who have shitty parents. Like, I'm like, oh, bummer. That's a bummer, too. Divorce, that's a bummer. It's just what happened to me.
Your dad was young then.
He was a little bit older than my mom. So, yeah. But still way too young to die with two small kids. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And so then it was just your mom, you, your sister, and your aunt?
Yeah. My aunt then moved in to help my mom. Yeah.
Powerhouse female house?
Yeah. So I often say this. I'm like, I've never seen a man do anything. So like, I never understood people that had dads because I was like, what does your dad do? He just shows up, eats dinner, and goes to bed because that's what it looked like every dad did.
Right, because they went to work during the day or whatever,
yeah.
And you never experienced it. So
and
that
whatever
was...
work was. Like,
right.
Because my mom was going to work, going to school, and raising us. So I never really, I was like, why would you have a man just show up, complain about something, and go to bed? Like, why? Who needs that? That's what, when I was growing up, I was like, wow, fascinated by dads. We have one family friend we grew up with who they had a great dad. So that was like, I know one good man. one
good dude.
Yeah. So, you know, people now, especially like being a woman in comedy, it's like, oh, daddy issues, that's that. I was like, actually, men have been so irrelevant in my life that I don't even think of it like that.
So it's interesting. All right. So sports, because you are a sports freak. I mean,
yeah.
And you're outspoken on sports.
I am.
And you always have been, even before you went into comedy. You've always, you know, it's been, Phillies are your jam.
Yeah.
They definitely are.
Yeah.
You know, you even have your own Phillies jersey, don't you?
Like, I have a collection of jerseys.
You have you have a ton of them. I remember that, which I love. So, you know, and coming from an all-female household, you moved to New York for a little bit, though, out of Philly. You left Philly.
Yeah.
Were you born and raised in Philly?
So I was born in South I've
Jersey.
always been within an hour of the city. Yeah. Born in South
Philly.
Jersey, moved to Bucks County. Yeah.
Philly.
The bubble.
Yeah.
Never city proper. I don't want to claim, but been in the city since college pretty much. And intermittently, like I moved and things.
What college? Where'd you go?
I went to Temple.
Oh, you're Temple Maid.
Mm-hmm. Temple Maid.
Temple Maid.
Yes. Go Owls.
Go Owls. Were you a huge Temple Spirit person?
Oh, yeah. I've missed 2 football games the entire time that I was there, the 4 years I was there.
Really?
Yeah.
And you made it in 4 years?
School?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not me. I was like that.
I was an advertising major. It's like fake classes.
Advertising major?
In the communication school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I always say I learned more. I had like 7 internships when I was in college. I learned more from the people in my classes. I wasn't set on a school. I went to Temple because I got a scholarship and it was the cheapest school for me to go to and closest. I have a little sister. I have a half sister. My mom remarried. So she was 8 when I was debating where to go to college, and I asked her. I like laid out all the welcome folders of where I got into school, and I was like, where should I go? And she said, what are their mascots and how far are they?
Your little sister said this?
Yeah, when she was 8. So I was like, really cute and then really sad. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the school that's 40 minutes from our house. Yeah. And I loved it. I had the best experience, and I loved being in a city. I didn't ever want to be in a school bubble and then have to do real life. Obviously, you have the safety net of being in college. very privileged that my mom, like my parents, helped me with school payments. But my first week I was in a gen ed, and this is how privileged and delusional I was. I heard we were all talking about how we got to the class, and some woman said that she was taking that class while she was taking care of the rest of her family. I didn't know you could take individual classes at school. Like it didn't even occur to me that someone had just been like teaching people at prisons, like to get their GEDs. I got to school and I was like, yeah, everyone just goes to high school and you just, package deal, go to college. And I know that my mom was taking classes as I was growing up, but just such a privileged bubble of going to college and not realizing what everyone else. So I always say I learned so much just from the people I met at school.
Do you think it's privilege or do you think it's sometimes naivety?
Both. But I'm naive. I get to be naive because I was privileged.
See, I'm looking at things differently because I went to college.
You're just calling me stupid?
No, because I'm sort of making a comparison to myself, dummy. No.
Yeah. Okay, idiot.
Yeah, jerk.
Yeah.
No, we're going to just start calling names here. No, because like I went to school and I was very naive because I didn't think that either. I thought everybody went and had their 4-year programs.
Definitely.
And
it was part of that they don't really explain that college you can like piecemeal because especially if you're going to a school in the suburbs where I went, where it's the assumption that you're going to college, it just seemed like a package deal. It wasn't like, oh, you take 2 classes and work and pay it off. Like I just was like one check and you're at school and it's just you get the credits you need. I didn't think about anything. And that's the privilege piece of it is I didn't have to think about it.
I think, now that you're saying it, I remember there was even 2 women in the class that were considerably older and they were auditing.
Yeah.
And I never knew what an audit was. And I was always like, what are these old people doing in
Yeah.
the class? Why are they in the John Milton class? What the hell?
Yeah.
So, okay, I get it.
Yeah. So went to Temple, loved it. My mom was raised in North Philly and she was very disappointed. She was like, I worked so hard to get out of there and you're going to make me pay for you to go back there. But I had an incredible experience at the school. I understand the school comes with its shortcomings, being there and doing what it's doing to the neighborhood. I understand that that's not without fault. I learned a lot being there and it really grew my love for being in the city too. So
It's interesting. When a lot of my friends, a lot of the people that on the show that went to Temple that may not have been from Philly proper have stayed. They don't leave.
Yeah.
Temple has brought a lot of people to the city, a very transient population, of course. Well, they'll get their start and then they may move on or whatever. But, Temple, I don't know. I think Temple is probably more positive than anything for our city.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, the Owls, because it started as a night school, it's always been the accessible school, which is what you want. And obviously, the sports teams keep people around and give you a reason to come back and have alumni pride. Like, I don't see people being like, Drexel hockey. Like, no one's doing that. Hockey was the first team that came to mind anyway. Yeah, I loved going to Temple. And like I said, it gave me the flexibility to work because I was in a city. I wasn't in a Penn State where I'm in the middle of nowhere and like, you go to class and you can't just go into a high rise and be in an office building like 2 seconds later. My senior year, I took all online classes so I could go work at an internship. And yeah, so I felt privileged and happy to be there. And after that, I nannied for a long time. I always have done like kind of nannying and then working and freelancing in offices. I don't like doing... And I've learned this. The 9-to-5, one job, not for me, never been for me. I need to have like 14 tasks going at every time. I love my friends. The reason I moved to New York after a few years was because of an office job. I wanted health insurance, crazy. I just wanted some form of stability and not everything to be weighing on me at all times. When you are freelancing, everything was on me. Insurance, promoting myself, getting new clients, whatever I was working on.
Paycheck to paycheck. Yeah,
portfolio and just then trying to have a social life. Wild. So I moved to New York based on getting referred to a job. And I loved it. It was a great experience, but holy moly, not for me.
New York or the job or both?
I always say that I'll never move to New York unless I'm making $15 million a year. I want to live somewhere comfortably, and I get to do that here.
I looked at it like I had opportunities to move to New York as well, like in my corporate career and stuff like that. And there was no way in hell you were going to put me in the middle of a major city like that into a small apartment where I'm spending everything I'm making just to live and not enjoying myself.
Because they're like, oh, you just go. So you're either in the shoebox of an apartment or you're out places you can't afford to be at. The cost of, you know, living there and what I was being paid to work. When I had the first phone call where they offered me the job, the person told me the amount of money and I thought she misspoke. By $20K, I thought she misspoke. And I was like, I looked at like the median salaries. I was like, how are you expecting people to go work in Midtown Manhattan? Anyway, so I did that for a year, and then the job let us work remotely for 3 days a week. So once we moved to being able to work remotely, I told my manager, I was like, I'm moving back to Philly. I was like, I am commuting 2 days a week. She was like, as long as you get to the office, doesn't matter to us. Did that until February 2020. Both my parents work in healthcare, and my mom texted me, you can absolutely not go to New York tomorrow in February, end of February. She was like, do not go to New York. And I was like, I can't tell my manager that like I'm above their jurisdiction and just can't go. So I texted my manager. I was like, I'm not coming. And she said, check your email. And our companies was one of the first to go fully remote as of like the first week of March 2020.
That's nice. That was nice for you.
It was super nice, super early, yeah. So then I worked remotely and was doing that. I guess I should back up. And I started comedy while I was in New York. I did.
Well, what made... First of all, comedy is a real particular niche to get into. Yeah. It's a real particular thing for people to get into. I mean, and me knowing you, you're funny. You got that that dry sense of humor, that dry wit that I love. Yeah. You know, that's the way my father was, a sarcastic AF.
To remind you of your dad?
Maybe.
We'll unpack that later.
A lot for the therapist today. Shit. Thank you. But like, when did you get interested in comedy?
So growing up, being my sister and I were close, and we always watched SNL since we were mostly just around adults because my mom had a lot of support due to the situation, being the dead dad thing, if you forgot. So we were always around a lot of adults, and I loved making people laugh because people were so, you know, sad around us a lot of times it's just a palpable energy even as a kid you take in. So we love being goofy. Like all our home videos are my sister putting on plays and like telling me what to do and me not listening. We watched a lot of SNL. It was a lot more sketch comedy. Like my sister and I were just together. We were discussing this, you know, Molly Shannon, Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry were the first skits that the first big laugh I got. I was 6 or 7. My babysitter let us watch Superstar, Molly Shannon's like spin-off movie. Mm-hmm. And there is a scene where Molly Shannon gets in a fight with the popular girl at school, and she like punches her in the chest, and the girl said, whatever. I repeated this scene, and it was something I definitely should not have been saying as a 7-year-old, but my babysitter laughed so hard that I was like the best feeling. Like I can still vividly remember it. But I didn't think about comedy as anything. I never performed like that. Like I maybe did a school play in 6th grade because everyone did it. Mm-hmm. But I did always love public speaking. Like I loved getting in front of my class. Like whenever I was always in student council, but I just never saw performance as a lane. No one in my family's really in the arts at all. You know, my sister's an incredible singer and she performed like through high school, but that was never her main drive. So I never really had that thought that that's a lane I could go into at all. And then, yes, my entire life, it's always been people telling me I'm funny, but I always say that it was always not people that I found funny telling me I'm funny. You know, when it's like someone dumb calling you smart, you're like, all right, yeah, that's well, great. In relation to this conversation.
Great, consider the source.
Right, so it's always people that were just like, oh, it's, you know, you're funny. And I often was just like, I think you're just boring. Like, you know, I never thought of it. I never woke up and was like, I'm so funny. But it just got to where I was like, maybe I could just try a writing class. Something just sparked while I was there. I was like, I have the resources here in New York. Let me try a writing class, see how I feel about it. Just do it. And I took this class. My goal was to get up on stage before my birthday that year. And the class is like you do 8 weeks and you go into a studio, and we had this teacher, she's great, and she used to be a TV writer, and she like knew all these stand-ups, just very old school New York, and you had to write a minute of comedy and perform it in front of the class and stand up there while they gave you feedback, like live feedback. And every week you would come back with a minute added on until you had 5 solid minutes, and the last class was a performance. So intense. I thought it was great, but I know that's people's biggest fear is to like try to be funny and just the public speaking, let alone trying to be funny. But I did that, loved the class, loved the feedback, loved the engagement with the other people. And we started doing open mics. I have some friends from that class I'm still friendly with and in touch with. And then we did that performance at Caroline's, which doesn't exist anymore.
Caroline's, you said?
Caroline's on Broadway was
that was a pretty pop.
The OG club.
Yeah.
So they do the graduation classes there.
When did that close?
I think last year. They still like the Caroline's brand still exists, but it turned into, what is that ping pong bar? They turned
Spin.
Yeah, they turned it into one of those. I know,
really?
sad. All right.
You know, I think I was at Caroline's, but I think I saw Vinny Guadagnino, whatever, there. I think.
You loved it, huh?
I don't remember. Yeah. It was also probably during my addiction time, so let's it's a different story for a different
surprised
show.
you didn't get kicked out. Yeah, so
maybe I did.
We did the show. I loved it. And then I just haven't stopped. Besides pandemic, but I came back to Philly, so I moved because the job switched. And I didn't really know how to get started here because all my resources for stand-up are in New York. So I'm like Googling, looking on Instagram, wherever. And the only place I found was a theater that also now doesn't exist. And I went and did a mic.
Here in Philly.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've been a little rusty, been some time. Still feel good about my material. I had not stopped writing. Showed up to this mic, didn't really know how it worked. And I was 20th on this list. I had emailed, take things very professionally. I emailed them a tape. I said, you know, coming back from New York, want to get started here. And they're like, great, happy to have you. I show up, I'm 20th on the list, fine. And then they emailed me asking if I wanted to come back. I was like, great, thanks so much. I show up the next time, 35th on this list. And I just was like, well, if this is what comedy is like here, this might be it for me, because it was...
Too much?
No, it was just this theater was like trying to be so inclusive that they were exclusive is how I'll describe it. And they were doing their best. There were some great shows there. It just was not for me. And then I luckily, through pandemic and just more internet browsing, found other open mics and places to go in Philly, and just kind of kicked open them from there.
That's awesome. So you just did it. You just put it all out there and said, screw it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to get up there and do it.
Well, so I was just talking about this with someone. Yeah, so I'm doing a comedy, and when I'm at a job and I want to switch, when I'm like just feeling at my end of the job, I make a list of what I'm good at, what I like doing, and what I can make money doing. And then I try to Venn diagram something from each of those columns. And the only thing that always kept coming up and keeps coming up is presenting, having good relationship with my clients, and promoting. And that's all like what I do for comedy is just self-promotion and having good relationship with clients or audience. So that's what came through. So I switched in the pandemic to a different job. Like still worked 2 more tech remote jobs, like one each for a year, because I quit the big New York job in 2021. And then went to a smaller company, did that for about a year, then went to another company. And I quit that last November, coming up on a year. Not because comedy, because that's negative money. Like, I think people fail to understand any art. You understand this. I'm just burning money, getting to shows, promoting shows, doing what I can. And you maybe get paid a drink ticket for most shows. Even at the big clubs, you're not... The checks are, you're barely, if you owe taxes on your comedy career, consider it lucky, even if you're doing well and getting booked at clubs regularly. So I started to tie in sports and everything else. I started an OnlyFans last year. September. Yeah, it's been over a year now, a year and a couple weeks. And I love taking photos, selfies included. Mm-hmm. love sports. So I just went, and I had a couple of guy friends being like, I think you would make a killing. But everything I saw was the market saturated, this, that. Because during the pandemic, a lot of people hopped on, were interested in getting started in sex work, getting started in just how I can make money at home, all things. I was like, so that always turned me away from it. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of was feeling credit card debt heavy and just not liking my job and just wanting to see if I could get money coming in any other way. So I tried it, and it was successful just by posting, I post my sports bets and pictures, like sexier pictures of me in jerseys and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it did well, is doing well. Please subscribe.
Yeah, where can they subscribe to?
It's called Go Birds, babe. I post my sports bets. I don't get naked. That's not my thing. Any like explicit thing, that's not mine. But chat with subscribers about sports and comedy, bird watching, all things that I'm into. Just like a different way to support my comedy career. So I started that in September, and it did well. That by November, I said, I just was not feeling it at my job anymore. And I was like, well, this could buy me a couple weeks to look for another job. And then bought me a year and changed. And
That's
I
awesome.
haven't looked back. Yeah. I really believe in myself and believe in the comedy. So I cannot fathom getting another laptop and getting introed into another company and doing hi, here's my fun fact.
Here's my direct deposit info.
Yeah. Anybody have a gun? Yeah. My sister was asking me this week. She is very work driven. Like she's incredible hard worker.
The older sister or younger?
Older. And she was asking me about work and what I'm looking forward to doing. And I was describing, I was like, I just can't lie anymore. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like going into an office and pretending I want to talk to people and pretending I like a product that I don't give a shit about.
Or I like the person.
Yeah. And she was like, so going to work? And I was like, yeah, I guess that's the conclusion of this conversation is I don't want to lie anymore. And a lot of corporate America is fluffing up the truth.
It makes you be somebody you're not. It forces you to.
And I truly wholeheartedly believed in every product I've ever worked for.
You have?
Yeah, I have. But
do you think that's cognitive dissonance, or did you truly believe in it?
Oh, I truly believed in them.
Did you lose like your faith or belief in it over the time, or you just lost faith and belief in the job, or both?
I believed in the products. I knew I was good at what I was doing. I knew I didn't care.
There you go. Apathy.
Yeah.
Apathy.
I just was like, I could be in this meeting or not, and it would not impact anyone's day to day.
Oh, look at that bird.
Yeah. Goodbye. Yeah. And it was one of those, I felt connections with my clients, but sometimes you're just reading a script and you're like, not that I'm one of those, I need to make a huge difference or like, but I couldn't do it anymore. And I, again, privileged place to say, like, I can sell selfies and be fine. But yeah, I had to pivot for my mental health sake. Getting up and worrying about emails. So the weird part of it all, that really cognitive dissonance, when you work for a remote job, I didn't meet people I worked with at all. I got mailed a laptop, onboarded online, mailed the laptop right back after a year. And the last day I closed my laptop, I had a meeting with one of my engineers, and, we were joking, and I said to him, I was like, I could have never existed. And he said, who said I exist? And I closed the computer, and I was like, what the hell just happened? But actually, none of that existed. It's all just numbers on a phone, like nothing, there's nothing concrete about it. So that's wild.
Oh, yeah, I get it, because I went back during COVID because of the fact that my dog walking business wasn't as, as it was.
Yeah.
I went back and I got a job, and I was doing it through the computer, the laptop, and I felt like such a disconnect to everybody. The only thing I still have out of it is that laptop, because I never asked for it back.
Oh, I have. Yeah. And
like,
I also was like, and that's not, I don't need to be in an office to feel something, but it was a big, okay, do I want to wake up every day, just open this, do imaginary work, and close it?
But you want to feel self-worth.
Yeah, I couldn't finish a work day and then start writing jokes. That was hard. Doing it 9 or 8 to 5 and then trying to open my notebook and be like, well, what happened today? Because life was passing me by. Comedy happens when I'm walking down the street.
Yeah, and
getting into a lift that drives me to Camden by accident.
Gosh, which, happened just recently. And that's what comedy is. It's people who are taking their own lives and making jokes out of it or making light of it and not being as serious. And I often look at women in comedy as having a harder job than men, because I think sometimes the stuff that comes out of a man's mouth is expected or more acceptable sometimes, I think. And then when a woman does it, it's almost like a shock maybe.
Yeah.
But you got to go for it. And you're the type of person that since I met you day one, you just go for it. You don't really care. You're very free with what you say. That's what you asked. If there was anything you couldn't say on your nose, just shoot away if you want.
Not that I also say anything that outrageous, but I like talking about sensitivity levels. People are very sensitive to different things, and I'm sensitive to different things. I described it as a friend yesterday. Everyone has different buttons. And I always hear people saying, oh, intentions what matters. That's not true. It's how it's received. That's always the issue.
The perception.
Yeah. And with comedy, I do have that now. I get that grace. Before it was just having a mouth. And I see people, people in my family, they expect it. I just think life is so short, as evident by how I came into this world. That why are we hiding and pretending anything? Like, I'll say things and my friends are like, oh, you can't say that. I'm like, why? What is we were all thinking it. What is the rule here? It's way more fun if we say it, acknowledge it, and then go through the shitty situation we're in right now. Like,
so 3 years now you've been writing comedy, basically.
Four-ish, yeah.
4-ish years. And like you said, you're not making these royalty checks right now and anything. You're investing your savings and you're into it.
What's a savings?
Yeah. You're investing every dime that you get from your OnlyFans into it.
Yeah.
So it's really just filtering. It's just that funnel is coming out of for yourself in the end.
Yeah.
But how many shows have you done so far? Have you counted? Do you have a diary? Do you have a journal?
I can't. Well, the only list I've been making is how many states I've done comedy in.
All right. How many states?
My phone's far away. I don't know. It's a decent amount, but that, again, a privilege of working remotely and just popping into other cities and being on the East Coast, because you can bop, go through the states real quick.
Have you gone off the East Coast ever?
Yeah. I was just in California this summer, did a couple of shows there, which I love the dynamic of going to other cities, because Philly, people are always like, oh, crowds are tough here. I'm like, no, the crowds are honest. That's what it is across the board. When people are like, oh, you get booed, I'm like, because they were playing poorly. Of course you boo your team. I don't care how much money anyone's making.
Right.
You can still be respectful, but just a light boo,
Philly's different.
Yeah, versus I forget which city I was just in, and they did not like even just like jokingly being mean about myself or something. And I'm not self-deprecating. That's not my jam, because it sounds fake if I'm just like,
I'm a pretty confident person. I've never been confident in dressing myself. My mom refers to me as the son she's never had. It's very sweet, very kind. And I do tend to lean a little more masculine in the way I dress, which I thought I could get away with because I have boobs, but apparently not. My friends are making that very clear to me. Last time I had a roommate, one morning she got up and went out without me, and I texted her, where'd you go? She's like, I went to breakfast. Didn't ask you to come because you had a boy over. I did not have a boy over. I had just left my shoes and jacket outside my room.
I can't do a woe is me act, I think. But somewhere recently, for example, I was in San Diego. Never performed in San Diego. It's great. But San Diego has got a hard red and blue line. They're kind of similar to here, where it's like the blue is blue, the red is red, and there's no purple. So I asked the one that booked me, I was like, is there anything, because I was starting the show off. So is there anything kind of off limits, that, or you would steer clear of? I don't really know the personalities here. She was like, no. And she turned around, she was like, well, maybe no political stuff. Definitely not abortion. And then the list started getting longer, and I was like, okay. I was like, no worries. I'm happy I asked. Like, not that I was going to go immediately into anything like that, but it was helpful to know that. So I love going to different places for that reason. I was in the South. I was in Atlanta. and I did a joke that was a little bit, I do a joke about how I love getting catcalled in Philly because it's straightforward. This joke is on my Instagram. I had a guy, I was walking with a friend, and this is true, walked out of Reading Terminal Market after lunch. And this guy was like, Miss, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? And we finally were like, sure, what's up? And he's like, you ain't shit. And he just said that to both of us. And like, I genuinely think that was the funniest cackle, because then he was like, after he was like kidding. But so I did that joke. Think about Philly cackles that are so specific and straightforward, right? I was feeling good the other day, like had a decent outfit on. I was walking down the street, had a little strut going. And then I hear this guy, hey, yo, miss. Miss? Hey, miss? And I'm finally just like, what? And he just looks at me and says, you ain't shit. And like, honestly, go Birds. Yeah. I needed that day, you know what I mean? Which in the Northeast kills. Does well. Not the part that I wrote is funny, I'm saying. Not does well. But in the South they were like
Disrespectful? Or
they just like don't think like making fun of yourself is as funny. And maybe it was where it was off night. Every show is different also. Every crowd is different. But I did it, and that totally pivoted how I had to do the rest of my set, because of how a joke hits will determine. I'm like, oh, this said a lot about what they like and don't like.
how much of your of getting up there? I mean, I know you write your own material. You write your jokes. You write.
I exclusively steal jokes.
Well, isn't that what writing's about? Isn't that really what it like?
We always
good
say
writing is
there's
about?
a finite amount of things, but I always write true to myself. I'm pretty biographical.
I mean, listen,
things.
we start that back in school, and we open up the encyclopedia and we steal our papers from
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And we just
We're
borrow.
excited.
Yeah, you know. But how much of it then getting up there? I mean, you get up there with in mind, like, this is what you want to give, this is the material you want to, deliver. But how much then like sort of strays from that and becomes improv?
Truly depends how the set's going. I always have a list of a few jokes I want to get through, depending on timing. Because that's the other thing is sometimes shows, I don't know how much I'm doing, how much time I'm doing till I get there. I don't want to talk to an audience. I know a lot of people think I do, but sometimes I like engaging, but I won't go out of my way to do it. Recently, like as you've seen on my Instagram, I had a couple of situations where I had to address something just for the sake of the show.
Right.
Just getting people kind of in line, and people are out of their minds.
I had a couple pretty bad negative onstage interactions recently that have prompted me to make this video that no one asked for. I don't know if it's increasing crowd work clips or people not knowing how to act in public in general, but crowds have been rowdy lately, to say the least.
Processing, right? What? Guys, I swear to fucking God, if me talking about pedophiles turning you on, you're not that good. Holy shit!
I just want to say that for me, I post crowd work clips because I'm not big yet, and it's just a view into my onstage persona, where then you can come see, if you're into that, you can come see a show where you could see my jokes that are best performed live. Otherwise, I would love to get through a set without a drunk person yelling out. That's my dream. That's the goal, someday. However, right now, I've been having some wild interactions.
I said you're not, it's fine.
I'm not what?
Missing anything.
Yeah, I hear that. A
A
lot
lot
of
more people's dads are dead than you think.
Are you telling me, the one with the dead dad, that
Yes.
other people's dads are dead?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am telling you that. Yes.
If you're not enjoying a show, believe it or not, this is crazy, you could leave. If you don't like what's happening on stage, instead of yelling out, instead of throwing a drunk fit, you could just walk out. If you're at a concert and you didn't like the song, you could go walk out, go to the bathroom, come back, grab a drink. No big. The door that you came into still exists for the way out. I know this video is a little unnecessary. I've just been feeling a little bummed out about some of the interactions lately.
Where was I going with my joke?
I don't know, because it wasn't that good.
Heather, you should leave, honestly. Like, get the fuck out.
Guys, she wasn't wrong. Not everyone's dad paid attention to them.
Sure?
Save, I wasn't going anywhere, bitches. All right.
And if you still think you are funny enough to try comedy, if you think you're funny enough to yell out while someone else is on stage, please, dear God, I swear, do 3 minutes at an open mic, and I guarantee you will never yell out at a show ever again.
And people go to comedy shows, and especially because of TikTok and things, people don't really remember what stand-up comedy was like prior to 2018, I guess. Of just going, sitting in a show, phones away, 2-drink minimum, and just watching and enjoying a show. You laugh and you laugh. You don't laugh, it's not funny to you. And then you leave. Now it has become this intense, immersive experience for some people that don't leave the house. I don't know what is going on, but some of the crowds, I'll say I would never act that way. So when people ask me about going to shows, like, people are always like, I don't want to sit in the front. I don't want to get picked on. I don't want this. I don't want this. I always remind people, I was like, no one that's here has ever thought about you, and they never will think about you. It's always my thing when I'm like seating a show, if it's a show I produce, and they're like, I don't want to sit up front. I'm like, this is actually more annoying than if you just sat up front.
I will tell you though, like what I do. Well, first of all, for people watching and listening,
Yeah.
where can they find your on OnlyFans? You are
Yeah, Go Birds Babe on OnlyFans, but all my social media you can find me. It's my full government name. It's all Jamie Amalea, Amalea. It's Greek, Pappas. But yeah, my website's Jamie Amalea Pappas. Instagram, Twitter, all that's the same.
Because I listen, I'll follow and I'll listen. And I will tell you that some of the things that I get the biggest kick out of is your interactions with the audience when they are heckling you, or they try to, and let's face it, they try to demean you up there. They try to make you fail.
Yeah.
People try to set you up for failure up there, and you handle that pretty well. I mean, have you ever had a time where it was like, shit, I could have done that differently, or I just bombed that? Or
yeah, every time. I never like most comics. I get off stage, I'm like, that was the worst thing I've ever done. And for most heckling experiences, yeah, of course, it's like when you finish an argument with anyone, and you're in the shower the next day, and you're like, oh, I should have said this. For me, it's mostly like, I wish I didn't take the bait as much, or because one person, one rotten apple, the whole bunch is done. And I don't want to give attention to the negative thing when so many other people are having a great thing. But it's like when you get a negative comment, 1 million people could tell you looked great today, but you were going to remember that someone told you look chubbier than usual, like you to yourself earlier.
Oh yeah, like I just like, oh my god.
It's just, especially when you're on stage and it's what you hear, the chirping. I'm not watching, you can't hear smiling, but you do hear the one person saying stuff. It's tough because I think people forget. I try to equate comedy for people that are unfamiliar, just like going to see a band. You have songs that you want to perform in your repertoire, things you're working on, old favorites, just equating jokes to songs. And if someone was singing a solo, you wouldn't yell out in the middle, even if you're trying to encourage them. Sometimes people think they're helping or like helping the show, and people like that they get laughs when they're sitting in the dark in their seat. Shut up! Yeah, I try to remember they're paying and enjoying a show, and if that's how they enjoy it,
let them do it.
I mean, I have a vivid memory, a comic that I then became friends with. It was early on in my New York time. I went to see a show, and someone was performing a joke, and he was ragging on one of the Kardashians, but used the wrong name. He misspoke on which person in the family he was talking about. So I yelled out the right one that he meant, which I shouldn't have done.
Stop it. Get some help.
And at the time, I thought I don't know what I thought. I thought I had a bunch of tequila and just yelled out the name. But after the show, I found that comic, and because he looked a little rattled, and I was like, my fault for yelling out. I did apologize. And he was like, yeah, you kind of threw me for the whole show. And that was clicked for me after that. And I was like, wow, yeah, he had things he needed to say, was trying to get through his presentation, and I yelled out in the middle of it. Which, if you were giving a presentation and someone yelled out in the middle of it, it's hard not to address it, and it's hard to not get thrown off. But it's also part of being professional and part of the job. But
wow, I never thought of it that way. I never really thought of it that there's feelings up there, or there's somebody who's actually going through it, because you're thinking to yourself, potentially that's what that person is up there for.
Yeah, I had a
but
group
not.
of people apologize to me recently. I did a show at this place on South Street, and this woman was just yelling at me, and she was with a table full of people, and none of them were saying anything or kind of shushing her, and yeah. So I kind of shut it down, but when you shut it down, it often can suck the energy out of the rest of the crowd because they're like, oh my God, what's happening? And the momentum of a show should be up and up and up, and you just break tension with jokes.
Right.
If you break tension to address something, the energy is gone. You have to build it back up. So I had to address what she was doing and then get through the rest of my set. And after, her whole table came up to me and they're like, sorry, that's our coworker's wife. We hate when she comes places. They were all apologizing, and I was like, I'm sorry that bummed the rest of the show out. And they were like, oh, we thought you were funny, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but I wish we had time to laugh together and I didn't have to deal with your coworker's wife.
Scolding her.
Yeah. And I don't want to do that either. It happens. And luckily I do have the personality where naturally I can just be like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You maintain. You
I try, yeah.
Even like I said, anybody who goes through your feed and looks at some of your videos that are up there, you maintain. You really do. You do a good job with it, and you can bring it back. But I'm sure that's distracting. I mean, that could really take focus away from everything. Just like even on the podcast, like talking here.
Yeah.
If something happens that guides it in a different direction, that can suck the energy out of it. So
totally. And I get frustrated. I have a finite amount of time when I'm on stage. So if I do have to address something like that, it takes away from me doing my job. So I don't mind playing if it helps. But sometimes I'm like, dang, I really wanted to get to that joke, and I had to spend 2 minutes telling a man to stop talking, and that sucks.
yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a teacher or something like that.
Yeah. And I get it. Sometimes people don't go out that much, and they're excited to be there, and you have to have 2 drinks while you're there, and it's fun. It's a fun night out.
And they're on their 5th or 6th.
Right. And you hear one person talking, it feels like more of like a dinner party where like, I want to interject here. Like I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt that goes to a show, because I sit through comedy all the time. I'm going to a ton of shows, ton of different venues, shitty little bar shows, doing whatever. So I know people don't have the same thought for comedy as someone that has to sit through a bunch of shows.
So when you sit there and you listen to other comics, other comedians, I should say, other comedians, do you ever think, damn, I'm so much better than them?
I think that about everybody all the time. No, I always think I think everyone's so different. It's just like listening to different bands. That's why I say, sometimes people, when you finish a show, it's like my least favorite compliment is people think they're complimenting you, but they're like, oh, you were the best of the night. And I'm like, everyone was different. Mine hit with some people, it doesn't hit with other people. And I know that. I never feel, there are people that work harder. I think that sometimes, but it's such a not concrete process that saying better or worse in comedy is really tricky.
How hard is it to rebound when you go for that joke that just flatlines and it happens?
Yeah.
How hard is that for you personally to rebound?
I'm a sicko. I like it.
Do you?
I like the silence. It makes me laugh more than anything.
A little sadist going on there.
The idea of a joke not working, it's horrible, obviously, because you're like, I wrote this, spent time working, chopping it at open mics, practicing it, and then you do it in a crowd, and you're like, oh, well, fuck me, huh? Yeah. It doesn't feel good, but it's always room to pivot. And if I believe in a joke, I'll still think it's funny, and funny is funny. Not everything works. I've done jokes a million times that one room it'll work and another room it won't. There's a club in New York that has a bunch of different rooms, and one night my friend came to see me, and I did an early show and then a show like 30 minutes later in the upstairs room. Did really well in the first show, went upstairs, same exact set, same like 5-7 minute set, same jokes, bombed my tush off on the upstairs room. And my friend was like, that's so interesting that you could do the same jokes. And I was like, every crowd is different. It's just an energy thing. I'm trying to think. I feel like recently ending on a joke that you don't get the laugh is the worst. When you're like, this is it. That's my big, what I'm closing on when I'm walking off stage, and That's the tough one. But if it's in the middle of the set, I can always pivot and just say something like muttering under my breath about how I thought it was funny or something like.
Do you laugh at your own jokes on stage?
It depends on the situation. Sometimes, like when they're genuine stories that have happened to me, just thinking about them make me laugh. Or talking about the dead dad stuff like that. A lot of times I'll use, if it doesn't, people aren't with me on it, a lot of times I'll say like, this is for me, not you.
I gotta tell you, I'm sorry, but every time you say it, I giggle, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry for that. But
Don't be sorry. I'm literally saying I want that because I want people to feel death happens, and I'm so sick of everyone like acting like it doesn't, like, or just acting like it's such a shameful thing, or like I have to be depressed all the time. I'm like, this thing happened. I've accepted it and need to move forward. And I always tell people, I'm like, I don't know why everyone else gets way more sad about my dead dad than I do. I was like, I thought he was my dad.
see,
Yeah, so I always try to tell people that because I would rather people not talk about death in vain. Like it's so like cliche, but like it is a part of life. So I think joking about it not only helps me. I've had so many people come up to me after shows. My mom died, this, that. I found out this about my dad. All sorts of stuff. Things I did not calculate for. Overwhelming stories.
they start to share with you. So you're connecting with them. You're making those connections then. If
They're connecting with me, Brett. Relax. No, I've had some very sweet people come
Sorry.
up to me after shows where they're like, I was with you this whole time. Hearing that, yeah, people don't necessarily have the outlet I do of making jokes, even if they want to. You just have to sit with it and deal with people saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm this, that. I did this joke, and then someone recently told me that it was on someone's Netflix special, so I stopped doing the joke. But it was about, you know, when people say I'm sorry, I'm like, why did you kill him? Like, because sorry is the only language we have for that situation. And it's not the proper thing to say. There is nothing good because, again, it's all how it gets received. Mm-hmm. I hear sorry and I'm like, stop, because then I have to deal with your feelings. And it, like, why do you have feelings about this? Like, I appreciate, like, when people go to start saying, I'm like, I appreciate it. I'm fine. It happened. We're good. I hate having to, like, pause for other people.
Oh, I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
Where was your favorite place that you ever did a show? Do you have one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, but I love performing at Helium here.
You do?
Yeah.
Helium
it's
has a
the
great
best.
vibe, great energy there.
Best club, yeah.
I've been a Helium fan since as long as I can remember, and I'm old.
Yeah.
So like in the 90s when
It's
Helium was
just
around.
physically like the best, like a great setup of a club.
There was another, like, across the street, there was a comedy place with sports or something.
Yeah, they still have it.
Do they still
yeah,
have
yeah.
it? But Helium just has, and hands down, they have some big names that come there that, you know, it's a great place. So
Great
Helium
club,
you
still
enjoy.
relatively small room. I mean, Punchline's great too. I'm just not there as much. It's a much bigger
I
room.
forgot about Punchline.
Yeah. Helium, I'm just there a lot more frequently, and I just love the setup. And, you know, it's cool listening to podcasts of like other comedians, and they like reference our Helium a lot, just being a great room, and the staff's amazing. And it just feels like it has a best of both worlds, like old school comedy club, but right now they're like welcoming a lot new different types of comics. I've seen a lot of people that have blown up on TikTok coming through, and it's really interesting to see how they've been pivoting with the changes in the comedy market.
Yeah, I like Helium. Good vibe there.
Yeah.
So you were an SNL fan. You mentioned Sherry O'Terry and you know, Will Ferrell and Molly Shannon. I mean, she's the queen of comedy.
Yeah.
She definitely is. You know,
The best.
every time I have my arms like this, I think of her. you
Yeah,
know?
truly. Yeah.
But is there anybody that you have met in your journey so far personally that you became, like, you know, fangirl by?
It's so funny. It's similar to athletes. Like once you meet an athlete, you're like, oh yeah, you're just a person. And I used to work for a professional athlete, and it's so interesting watching people react to that. 'Cause again, it's all how they receive it. So in comedy, I'll see people backstage at a show or just see people at a club. I'm like, oh yeah, they're just going spot to spot and like trying to get home, and they're tired and they're writing their jokes, and some jokes worked and some didn't. It's funny. There's a comic in Philly that I'm friends with that I swear I still fangirl. His name is Blake Wexler. He just has this new special out on YouTube called Daddy Longlegs. But Blake and I are friends, but genuinely when he's on stage, I get to enjoy true comedy, like a mastermind. Like he's been doing it since he was 15 and he's an ancient man now. But no, he's so funny, so good at the craft, is humble, genuine, and just at the end of the day, I've had to walk out. He was performing at Helium, probably last time he headlined, and I got into a coughing fit. I started laughing so hard I literally had to walk out during one of his jokes that I've heard before. So I probably fangirl over my friend. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. You know, I mean, there's a lot of good comedians in Philly. There's a lot of good locals.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of names out there, you know, like that.
There's so much comedy to see in Philly too, if you're looking for it. Hashtags. And a lot of the local taverns and pubs, they do a lot of comedy shows. Yeah.
With names. You just got to look for them during the weeknights or something like that too. And it's cool. And comedy's always been something for me that, you know, well, first it's supposed to be lighthearted. It's supposed to be that comedy. You don't take it so serious.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get mad at what's being said. I mean,
you could just leave.
You can, yeah. You make that choice. If you don't like it, you leave. That's with anything in life.
I've left shows
because you didn't like what was being said, or
I was tired.
You're tired.
Yeah. No, I always say that's the end of my rant when I post that. I posted a video about how people are acting, and I always just say, you can leave. If I'm at a concert and there's a band playing, and maybe it's a song I don't like, maybe I don't care for the band, I can go to the bathroom, go get a drink,
walk away,
grab a snack, leave, come back. Not everything needs to be so internalized and taken so personally. If you don't like what's on stage, you can for sure get up and leave. In most clubs, if you're like, hey, this really wasn't for me, but I would love to come back, most clubs will give you a refund. Not a big deal. My parents just saw a show in Atlantic City and it did not go well, is what I'll say. And they were at one of the bigger casinos. My mom called me the next day. She was like, it was a real bummer. They had to kick someone out. And then the headliner's performance just kind of was reflective of that. I said, call them right away. You paid good money to see this. Club immediately was like, tickets to whatever you want.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's something people don't know. I mean, you're going there for your enjoyment. So you should be enjoying yourself.
People don't love, like, I know people don't love, like, to complain, but, like, you should have a good time.
Yeah.
You paid for an activity to have a good time. And if you respectfully just get up and leave, like, this wasn't for me. This will not. I've been talking to someone that works at Helium, and they'll get phone calls, and someone will call and say, what type of comedy is it tonight? Like, if they're not familiar with the person, generally older people, because you can Google any comic. Sometimes you're going to see something you don't like, even if it's a comic you like. I've been disappointed, like, very excited to see someone, and they had just an off night or something.
Just wasn't good.
Yeah. And I also... You don't have to get a refund. You can just accept that it was a live performance you didn't like.
That's like going to a concert. It could be hit or miss.
Yeah.
You know, they could be really shitty live, or they could be really great live.
Yeah.
Or it could be whatever the case may be.
There's so many energies getting projected. It's how they're performing, how the crowd is, how the venue is. You know, everyone is just a person at the end of the day. Like, I've had really shitty, depressed days where I have to go on stage and make people laugh when, like, I haven't laughed myself that day. So I think people forget that happens too.
So it's interesting you say that, because comedy, when you look at somebody that does comedy for a living, because it's a job.
Yeah.
I mean, you just told us it's a job. You're traveling all over. You're making it work. You're doing. Do you think that some people take that person's comedy as that's who that person is through and through? Or are there people that are like, you know what, they're just saying because it's trying to get a laugh?
Depends if they have a brain or not. I mean, people have treated me so, even people I knew beforehand have treated me so differently since seeing that I go on stage. Really? Some people got uncomfortable to talk to me, or I always get the, oh, you're going to put this in your skit, like, real quick, or you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And I'm like, what the heck?
Don't flatter yourself.
Yeah. Or I mean, it's impacted dating for me. I mean, forget about it. I'll be single for the rest of my life.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, at any of your shows, has anybody ever passed you their digits or anything, man
just
or
couples,
woman?
Just couples.
Just couples?
Always couples.
Ooh, a little threesome?
It's always couples. I don't...
Did you just give them your OnlyFans page and say, hey, call me?
I think it comes from... So men obviously way too insecure to, like, hit on a woman that is funnier on stage. I even recently was going out with someone who, you know, he said, you know, he was like, it's intimidating, you command a room on and off the stage. And I was like, okay.
Can't handle it?
Well, I was just like, what do you want? I can't, like, I don't know. Either you like that or you don't, because that seems to be what you perceive of me.
Right.
Yeah. So I have a picture of me on all my dating apps on stage because it weeds out the people saying, because it's usually like, oh, I could never do comedy. And I'm like, did someone ask you to? Is always what I say.
Or the audition.
Or more likely, oh, my friends all say I'm funny. I'm this, that, that's that. I'm like, okay. I never see, like, if you show me a picture of you playing golf, I'm never like, I golf, I'm better than you. Like, I never.
You're not a one-upper?
I'm a little bit more relaxed than that. I never see a photo of someone doing something and I'm like, take it personally again. Like, I'm like, oh, you enjoy doing that? Great. Yeah, it's been tough. I do a joke about a guy who called me intimidating. And I don't even know how to perceive that. I know it's how they're receiving something. So even I hear it from friends, like, you know, my good friends are not concerned that I'm going to talk about them on stage. It's people that are like in my secondary and tertiary life
Once
that
again,
are like,
don't flatter yourself, people.
yeah, or just like, is that what you think about when we're talking? Like, you don't enjoy our time together because you think I'm going to say something, or I think better off some of them want me to say something, like they want to be included.
Secretly, that's like their goal, to have you like
either
be part of your act.
Or some people just laugh at everything I say when I talk to them, and that's horrific for me. I like have some people in my life who I genuinely avoid talking to because I'll just be like, hey, what's up? And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, what? And that came my whole life because my voice is monotone. So people always think I'm joking because of how I just sound outright. But it's obviously gotten way worse since going on stage. People always think I'm joking, or I don't know what. They want to be involved.
Is there anything off limits when you talk on stage?
No.
Is there anything that you may like stay away from? Is there anything that you try to avoid?
Depending where I am. Yeah. But like you were saying before, just even as a woman, that comedy teacher I had in New York, the first thing she told us two things. She said, do not go on stage drunk or high. She said, line your Coke up before you go on stage for after your set. And the other thing she said was, being a woman, as soon as you step on stage, you've automatically lost at least half the audience. So you're in an uphill battle the first word that comes out of your mouth. She's not wrong. And I know people are like, oh, that's not true. That sounds true. I'm like, just you debating that I said that means you don't even accept what I said.
Right.
So she said that, and I hear that. Yeah, at a baseline, I mean, you could see it in the comments. If I have a reel that goes off on Instagram, the comments are like horrific. And that's not the majority, and that's bots, and that's just trolls and whatever. But it's true. If you watch a comedy show and there's a few people on it, and even if it's a bar show or something, sometimes there's an interesting dynamic where if a woman goes up, you can hear a pin drop because people are waiting. They're saying be funny, or they're waiting for her to fail, whatever failing is to them. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not like that. I'm like, it is. Like, it just genuinely is. I've seen it even with famous comics, like, or people that have a name. People expect so much more from women and tear them down so much more. Because also, how many female comedians can an average person name? 3, maybe. And the amount of men that are out there saying whatever nonsense. I saw a friend posted recently, or someone I follow on Instagram said something like, she got a comment that was like, you're the first female comedian I've ever seen that's not talking about her period. As if every man does not go on stage talking about swinging his dick around. I'm like, what are you talking about?
First thing I thought of was like, every man's gonna.
Yeah, I'm like, it's also, yeah, so there's just that scrutiny so much more. And, yeah, or oh, you were actually funny, or like, women aren't usually funny, like the backhanded this and that, or the getting hit on. I have the ugliest of friends that get hit on after shows. Like absolute troll, broke ass men getting beautiful women because they were funny and they were on stage. I go on stage and I get men coming up to me being like, I could do that. Or the couples, like I said. Because it's like the woman like finds the confidence attractive and the man finds the idea of that fun.
Most men do.
Yeah. So it's always couples. I don't even do jokes about threesomes or anything like that. But it's been enough that I'm like, I don't understand. Like break up is more what I mean. If your one night out for date night is like, let's go troll for a toy, my goodness.
So you're single now?
Yeah.
Solo? You hear that,
Single.
guys? Or girls? Solo? You know,
Or
come on.
couples.
Yeah, couples. Sorry.
Honestly, it's usually married guys, so that's usually the wheelhouse of my DMs. Yeah.
If you had a chance to go back and you know, to little Jamie and meet her, what advice would you give her now that you've seen a lot of what you've seen? And
Well, first off, I would write down anything she said because she was funny. My home video is way funnier than anything I do on stage now. Advice for her? It's hard. As cruel and as crass as I can be, I have a very like open heart, and I've let a lot of people in that I shouldn't have. And I hate to say shouldn't have because that's part of life. I think I would tell her, listen to them the first time. People like show you that first time.
awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. And because so many of us give people second, third, fourth chances, and we should have listened the first time.
It's always, or just the gut feeling.
Go with your gut.
Yeah, if you didn't like how they treated you one time, it's not going to get better.
I always say go with your gut. It knows what's up.
Yeah,
Definitely
that's what
knows
I
what's
would
up.
tell her. And probably just getting into comedy earlier.
Nice.
Yeah, the stuff she did at the dinner table we could have written down.
What aspirations you got for yourself over the next few years?
Yeah, good question. I have been putting off writing my goals. I have a friend right now that, if he hears this, we've been supposed to have a meeting I keep putting off on my goal writing. I'd love to start headlining and touring. Yeah.
Nice.
That's the next step. Right now, just featuring with some friends, but just getting that following up is huge, just to prove to clubs and things that I can get butts and seats. So I tell people is number one. So I do run a show in Philly called Playtime Comedy, trying to just get smaller venues, even some BYO places. Like we have a show at Philly Typewriter coming up, the typewriter shop on East Passyunk, and just different places like that, just to get people into different stores and places I love in the city. And just to get that following up, get people to see me more, because that's what the people need, more me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single day in their lives.
Yeah, how gross. Talk about myself for an hour and just be like, everyone needs more of this, right?
Well, and congratulations on the Philly Current piece.
Thank you. That was very kind. Yes.
Philly Current did
yes.
a great article on you. Great story on you. It highlighted it. I mean, if you didn't get a chance to check that out, check it out in Philly Current. It is online.
Yeah.
And their episodes will pick up the copy. It's a hard copy mag.
Thank you.
You were in that.
They did give me a little shout out, and then we did the day in the life, which was very funny to me to ask like a content creator day in the life for a comedian, because truly it was a good idea, because I don't think people think about what a comedian does day to day. But then I was like, how do I tell these people sit on my phone?
No, it's cool. I did a day in the life with them as well. Years and years ago with the dogs. But it's cool to do that. It's good that you're being recognized locally. Yeah. Because this is your city. This is where it starts.
Yeah, I got booked from that for sure. Someone went to my website after that and called me.
Word of mouth. It's perfect. So once again, on your social media, it is what? Yeah.
Jamie Amalea Pappas. So that's JAMIEAMALEA Pappas. PAPPAS.
It's a mouthful, but that's on
all
your social media.
That's my name. That's the website. Yeah, and the website, and then it'll take you to all the links, everything. But yeah, if you get the first and middle name, it'll come up. It's a picture of me like this with a pink background. You'll see it.
And if they want to support you and your endeavors on your OnlyFans, once again, it is
Go Birds, babe.
Go Birds, babe, and you'll get some of the betting tips. You'll get some of her jerseys, little sexy jersey pictures.
Yeah.
You know,
whatever you're into.
You'll never get the exposed nip, right?
No nip.
No nip. That's cool.
Nip.
That's good. Let the imagination wander.
That's how I wanted to end this. No nipples. That's for me.
Listen, I didn't.
That's for the couples that see me after shows.
And I didn't write it that way either. So we're good.
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah.
This was great. I'm so glad to connect with you finally.
What a
after all
fun
these
way to
years.
catch up.
It was. It really good.
Mike's in the face. This
And
is
Mike's
all
in
I
the
wanted.
face. You almost got kidnapped on the way over here in the Uber ride.
I
which-
could be getting kidnapped right now.
I know. The way home, I'm gonna have to like trail you on the way home. So, but
Thank you.
Thank you once again. I appreciate you, and I'm really proud of you. And
Thank you. It's
you
very
make me
nice.
laugh. You
Well,
really do.
that's all I want. One
Good.
person.
You got it. You don't need
Thank
anything
you.
else from here.
Thanks so
Everybody
much.
else, remember, whatever it is you stand for, be a voice. This is Britt Carpenter on Usala Media. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Everybody else, have a great rest of your day.